Do you have an exam in 3 months? 3 days? 3 hours? It's okay, I'm here to help. I'm Miss Bailey, I'm a guidance counselor, and today I'm going to discuss study strategies for anything. There are a ton of brain hacks you can find on the internet, but it's really tough to beat the brain's natural information storage and retrieval process. When you're studying effectively, you really have to go through the same process no matter what hacks you've come up with. The brain has to receive the information, encode it, consolidate it, store it, and if you're going to take a test or an exam or a quiz, it has to retrieve it again. I'm going to go through the specifics of 3 months, 3 weeks, 3 days, and 3 hours left to study at the end, but first I'm going to go through 5 steps for studying for anything that applies to all of them. You're going to need to prepare, design, teach, test, and sleep. Prepare. Prepare is the antithesis of procrastinate. I'm personally really bad at this, so I feel your pain. I get way too many people come to me saying that they use the textbook to study. Do not use the textbook to study. It is not built for that. The role of the textbook is to provide you with content to read, to prepare before the lesson. They're not designed well for review. And research shows that studying from the textbook is one of the absolute worst ways to study. If you come to class prepared with questions that you have after reading the textbook, then you'll be able to fill in your own gaps by listening to the teacher or ask the teacher after class. If you're one of those 3 days or 3 hours before study people, then this isn't exactly going to help you. What you should take away is don't use the textbook to study, and I'll come to you later with more tips about how to approach it. The average person writes 0.3 words per second. The fastest people type 1.5 words per second. The average lecturer speaks at 3 words per second. So it's impossible to take verbatim notes, even if we could write them in the lecture, are not effective. Research shows that notes are best used for studying when they are transformed in some way. There are 3 great ways to design and process your in-class notes that have proven to be effective. Put links in description below for each one of these methods, but just briefly, the Cornell method uses topic-based notes. The mind mapping method uses concept-based notes. The outline method uses subject-based notes. You can use these notes to help you with our next topic, design. Don't study in bed, you sleep there. Let it be a restful place. Prepare your schedule. Study in small bursts of time, 15 to 30 minutes, not big chunks. It is far more effective to study in 8 chunks of 15 minutes over time than it is to study in 1 2-hour interval. Even if you only have 1 day before your test, you should split up your study time into 15 to 30 minute chunks with breaks in between to help your brain to process it. Let's say you have a Saturday where you're going to study all day. Make sure that you put multiple subjects in there and a couple of YouTube or Netflix sessions or going outside or a coffee break, so your brain actually has time to rest and process in between each piece of information. You might be asking, if I can't use the textbook and I'm not supposed to use my notes, how am I going to study? You should use the knowledge that you've gained from the textbook, the teacher's lessons, and your notes to create study tools. These could be index cards, PowerPoint presentations, videos, apps, infographics, games, anything that will help you to recall the material, use it in a different way, and practice it later on. Let's move on to design. You should be designing your own study tools, not just using study tools provided to you. Well, I want you to use the information that you've gained by reading the textbook, attending lessons, and consolidating your notes to create your own study tools, not just tools that people have provided to you. Because when you identify the way that you're going to learn best, then you're more able to process the information. And when you're creating something from that information, it helps you consolidate it. Flashcards, apps, your own, these are ways that you can design your own study tools and create fun ways for you to learn and recall information. You can use the study tools that other people have created, but it won't help you to rehearse the information or use what you already know to create something. A better way is to use your tools that you have designed and teach someone. After you've created your study tools and after you've planned, you're going to master your content so that you can teach somebody else. Most people learn best by teaching somebody else, over 90%. When we teach somebody else, we need to have mastery over a subject, not just know enough to get by. Did you know the best way to prepare for the SAT, according to the College Board that regulates that test, is to take practice tests? Finally, sleep. If you haven't studied yet and it's the night before the test, is it more effective to have 8 to 10 hours of sleep and not study at all, or pull an all-nighter? The answer is actually the former. It's better to not study at all and go into the test without any studying and get 8 to 10 hours of sleep than it is to cram. If you don't get enough sleep, then your brain is going to be overwhelmed, stressed, and have imperfect recall, which is worse than if you just learned some of the stuff and had better recall and were more rested when you actually saw the question. Now let's discuss those time intervals. 3 months, 3 weeks, 3 days, and 3 hours before the test. What do you do? 3 months before the test? Easy. Follow all the steps I just said. Is your evaluation 3 weeks away? Still easy. Read ahead in the textbook as much as possible, but don't backtrack. Start looking back in your notes if you have them and transform them into more useful study tools. Is it 3 days before the test? If you haven't started studying yet, don't even look at your textbook. If you haven't started studying yet, gauge how much study time you need. Split these time increments into 15 to 30 minute chunks and not all together in one day if possible. Is it 3 hours before your test? Whether you've prepared 3 months in advance or you literally haven't started studying yet, the process is actually going to be the same regardless. 4 S's for 3 hours before the test. Sleep, study, snack, and serenity. 3 hours before, study. Simply do a few recall exercises to stimulate your brain. 2 hours before, snack. Remember to drink water, and if you're able to bring a water bottle into the test, that's even better. 1 hour before, serenity. Just calm yourself. You know how there always seem to be people reading their notes or reading their textbook right before the test? Take a walk, take some breath, just don't study an hour before the test. Because if you study the hour before the test, then your brain's going to get clogged with a ton of information, and the information that you've already processed for recall will get all mugged up in all the other information you're trying to overload your brain with at the time. So I hope this has given you some strategies about how to study well for tests, exams, quizzes, or really anything that you have. Please write in the comments below or if there are specific subjects that provide you with more stress than others when you're studying. Next week, we're going to discuss what to do when we fail. So please like and subscribe so you don't miss anything. Thanks for watching.